In this assembly, there's a component that we will purchase. It will be a single unit delivered. However, the way the assembly was originally built, it's comprised of two sub-assemblies. Sometimes when working in Inventor, we'll set up a structure for the assembly that isn't in line with the real world. So what we need to be able to do is restructure the assembly. I'll select the two sub-assemblies, right-click, and under Component, select Demote. You can also use the Tab key. This will give me the opportunity to name and create a new assembly file, and I can even set the bill of materials structure, which will be purchased. I'll click OK. I'll have it update the assembly, and you see we now have pneumatic actuator in the assembly file. There is some small risk of losing assembly constraints, but more often than not, you'll find that the constraints are resilient in Inventor and everything stays connected. When looking at other sub-assemblies, I see some components that are embedded in sub-assemblies that need to be at the top level. For example, these grippers and the screws and washers that hold them in place. I'll use my selection filters and switch to part priority. This will allow me to reach through the assembly structure and select components, even though they're embedded in sub-assemblies. Now that I have these components highlighted, I'll take a look at some of these sub-assemblies. I can right-click and go to Component and say Promote. This will lift them out of the sub-assembly and to the top level, or I also have the option of clicking and dragging these fasteners down below the pneumatic actuator and into the top level of the assembly. It will grab both the standard content and the parts. Now that I have all of these fasteners at the top level of the assembly, it's making the browser look a little crowded. What I'll do is go to the top level, right-click, and say Create New Folder. I'll create a Fasteners folder and grab the various fasteners and drag them into it. This will not be restructuring anything in the assembly. It will not be rearranging them. It is simply filtering their visibility at the top level of the browser. I can expand the folder and access any of them individually, but I can also address them as a group. For example, if I right-click and select Visibility, it will turn all of the fasteners off or on at one time. You might also notice that many of the right-click options that you would have for a single component are available for all of them, such as Suppress, Transparent, Enabled. They can all be addressed at once, which adds a great deal of convenience.